Hi everybody, hope you're all well today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to get on. Thank you for joining me last minute. I really wasn't sure what time I was going to be able to go on today. So today we're going to make a couple things, and we're going to make, what do I have handy? Oh, I have all of my DSP right next to me. We're going to make by request, a little hand sanitizer holder, and we're also going to make a gift card holder. So for those of you who might have people in your lives that you would like to give those to, we'll get them ready. Now you could do these as Halloween theme. You could do them as, honestly, you could do them for anything. You could do Christmas. You could just do a regular generic themed card. But we're going to be using a host set, which is in the Stampin' Up! Catalog. And in case you haven't seen this one, this is in the back. So usually at the very back of the catalog is where they typically put the host sets. We only have one. But I thought the color and scheming were really, really cute, so I figured we could use this one. So it's called A Merry Hello. I haven't used it yet, actually. I just got it the other day. So we're going to use that. And then I also have out the stitched rectangles. I have, what is this? The brick and mortar embossing folder, because there's lots of different things you could do with it. And I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do yet. I do have the design of it down, which I am not ashamed to admit I had to do 4 different times. Sometimes you just have to do things over to get them right. And the funny part is I changed it around and had to change some things. And guess what? I was right the first time, and I should have went with my gut, but I second guessed myself. So there you go. Hope everybody has had a great week so far. And I'm going to tell you one other thing. Yours eventually is going to look like this, but we're going to put this over here. So this is actually going to be flat, nothing here, and we're going to have the flap here because I misdid it. But you'll do yours correctly because I promise we're going to work together for this. We're also going to decorate this with some DSP. So my friend Kathy asked if we would make a little holder to hold the little, she tells me these are the measurements to fit the little Bath and Body Works hand sanitizer. So we're going to do that, and then we'll also make a little gift card holder. So I'm going to just pop and check one more thing. I'm going to see if I can pull you guys up here without too much interference. That way I can see your comments. See, I have a lot of people. Hi Cindy. Hi Donna. That's why it's good to make a template. Girl, you have no idea. It is especially good for me, because all the ideas in my head, woof, it's a lot. And I was going to do a live with my little face on here. However, if you guys could see my hair, you'd think I look like a 12-year-old. So I think it looks cute, but you know, that's not for everybody. Hi, Sue. Oh, Sue's from Olympia. You guys are in the same vicinity. Kathleen, Pam, Kathy. Kathy, this is for you. Diana, Carol, Monique, thank you guys all so much for joining. So I'm going to do my best to follow along with the comments. I also will post this after the fact to YouTube. So if for some reason I didn't answer what you asked here, just leave a comment there. There are far fewer comments on YouTube. So a lot of times I can answer those a little bit faster. So for this project today, we're going to begin with our Simply Scored scoring tool. I really like this. It's really easy to use. Let me just move the comments over on my phone. That way I can clearly see you guys. So for this, we're going to have a piece of, and this is thick, very vanilla. And I'm not real big on the very vanilla until I use it, and then I use it all the time. But this measures 8.5 by 6, okay? So you could use any color cardstock you want, but if you're going to use white or vanilla, I would use Thick Whisper White or Thick Very Vanilla, because you're going to want something that's going to be a little bit more sturdy. Our colored cardstock is actually more heavy weight than the regular white and vanilla. That's why if you want something to have a neutral base, use the thick for sure. So to begin, we're going to score, and I'm going to take my time so I make sure I don't fudge this up when we're getting started. So we're going to start on the 6-inch side, okay? So this is the shorter side, and we're going to score at 1 inch. Go over here, see if I can follow the line left-handed. I'm going to do it lefty today. Then we're going to do 2 3/4. And I will post all of these instructions to the blog, so no need to follow along or write it down. I'll post it on there when I'm finished. 3 3/4, and it is going to take me a little bit because I legit just finished making this. And 5 1/2. Okay, so again, to wrap that up, it was 1, 2 3/4, 3 3/4, and 5 1/2. And we're going to turn it to the 8 1/2-inch side, and we're going to score it at 1, 4 1/4, 5 1/4, and 8 1/4. Does that look right? 1. Let's see if it lines up. If that's correct. Now, daggone it, this doesn't look. What in the world did I do? Hold on. I'm telling you, something about me is just getting ridiculous. I swear, this does work because it's backwards this way. You know why? Because this. I know there's people that are going to be like, Rach, really? You got to get your act together, girl. This is half. That is our 1. Oh, you know why? It's supposed to be here. It doesn't need to be 8 1/2. That really is me being dumb. Sorry about that. This, you're going to go with 5 1/4, right like you did. So my apologies. And then this should be about a 1/2 inch. So 5 3/4. So once again, I did fib. You don't need it to be this big. It's going to be like this. Sorry. You could always make this just a teeny bit longer if you want, but I find that sometimes if the flap is too long, you don't really want it too long. So bear with me a minute. I'm going to cut this off. Oh, you know, all I'm going to say is sometimes when you let people get in your head, they stay there. And that's all I'm going to say. Let me just trim this off for you real quick. Okay. Is that right? That's right. That looks right. 5 1/4. Why did I have 8 1/4? That was just goofy because this is here. Yeah, we're good. Oh, this is going to actually be backwards because we're going to have our other flap. So like this is how it's going to make sense. We'll get it. I promise you. Okay, so she says that this could very well be the actual very last Facebook Live I ever do. Out of sheer embarrassment. Seriously. Oh. Hold on. Let me give me a moment here to get myself together. Make sure I'm right direction. That looks right. This is right because I'm ending up going the other way. Okay. Talked myself through it. Everything's going to be fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold on all of the score lines. I'm making more of this than it is, I promise you. And you do want to make sure you burnish the edges. I need to have a mental reset. And apparently today wasn't that day. There we go. I don't know why. Got up early today because I didn't want to mess up my nice routine that I got established with school, which has been super fun. But the kids come this week. So it's going to be a little bit more exciting. All right, so now we're going to take our paper snips. Now you can use larger scissors if you'd like. That's perfectly fine. I am real. Girls, there is nothing. If I'm not real, this is as real as it gets. So if you want to use larger scissors, you can, because I know sometimes when you're going up, but sometimes I find that I can use the snips to get in better is where I want to be. So we're going to take off all of these pieces here because we really just need this flap because it's going to hold our box closed. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to notch the end. That way you can see where I'm going. And when we're finished, I will take and I will set this down. That way you can maybe take a screenshot if you'd like, so you can see what this template will look like. So here's one. We're going to take that all the way off, and we're going to take that all the way off. So this is going to hold our box closed. Okay. So the only other thing we're going to change, and if you remember, when I cut this originally, I took off the other tab, and you actually want it to be, if you're going to go with the front, you want to keep it on. So right now, where am I going? Right here. I think I must have done this backwards from the other one. I'm not going to look at this because it's going to throw me off. We're going to cut up to the score lines on all of these. So cut up. And these are going to be the side flaps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just trim this off a little and give it just a smidge of a miter cut. And same thing again here. So I'm going to pick this up just to the score line, and I'm going to do the same thing because these are going to be the side flaps of the box. So they really don't need to be long, just kind of something to hold it in place. They don't really even need to be evenly matching. Then I'm also going to go ahead and trim off just the score line, because sometimes I think, depending on the way you cut it, if you trim the score line, it makes it look a little bit more even at the bottom. Okay, so there, that is going to be the bottom of our box. So now up here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to trim down to the second score line. Okay, we only really need this for the flap part. We're going to trim down again. We'll go back and do our little trim ups in a second. Trim down again. So now I'm going to remove the bulk of this, because again, it just needs to be a tab, and just give it a little miter cut each way. And then the same on this one. So we're going to remove the bulk of this, because we're just making flaps like so. Okay, so we have that. Now take a moment and look at this, because if you care how your box is going to be, some people want their seam to be in the back. So this is where our seam is. So usually you'll remove this flap here. If you don't care, you can take this flap off. It's up to you. But I'm going to completely remove this flap here, and I'm just going to do my best to cut on the score line. Okay, and then take that off. I'm going to miter cut this just a teeny bit. And I'm just going to just lightly trim off that score line. It's not really too bad. Okay. So Kathy is doing these for her quilt. So this is what it's actually going to look like. So I'm going to move this one. We're going to get rid of that one because it looks goofy anyway. So this is what it's going to look like. So this part is going to have adhesive here. So it's going to fit into this. These are all going to close. You're going to probably trim, we're going to probably trim this one just a little bit because we want it to be square. Yeah, I'm going to take just a smidge off of this one quickly. So you're going to have your box so it closes, so the flap closes in the front. It just makes it look neater. And then this will fold in like so. Okay, so that's what our box is going to look like. So we're going to decorate this, and then we're going to use, we can use this little stocking. You could use the longer stocking if you wanted to. It's kind of up to you. But I also want to add in a little bit of DSP. Now, since I picked a Christmas themed paper, or a Christmas themed stamp set, I'm going to grab a Christmas paper. Make sure I don't rip this off. So I have all of my DSPs. I keep them in these sleeves. So if they don't come in the regular sleeve, I just keep them in these 6x6 sleeves. And I think that the plaid might look super nice with this. So I think I'm going to go with that and then add the stocking. You could also do brightly gleaming, because this could be a Christmas themed, but it could also be neutral, because there's not really any like a Christmas decor as opposed to this one, which this is called 'Tis the Season. It does have candy canes and stuff. If you wanted to go more neutral as well, you could do the poinsettia, because this doesn't really have to be Christmas. This is a very nice cardstock because it's not too Christmassy, if that makes sense. It's more of like a neutral and a floral. It could go either way. So this would be great if you wanted to make these ahead of time. And then, now granted, this one is a little bit more Christmassy, but that could also just be regular holly. So you could make these boxes and then not add sentiments until you knew what you were going for. We also have the Tall Tidings, which this one does have some more winter theme, not necessarily Christmassy, because there's not any Christmas. There is snow. But you also have the stripes and the plaid. So this one is a pretty good one too with the vanilla, because it's really neutral. Home, I believe this one's called Home for the Holidays. No, it's called something different. Something with houses, and I can't think of what it is. That one. We also have the Feels Like Frost, which was a huge hit last year because this stuff is so photorealistic. The biggest problem you have with this is deciding which one to use, and if you want to cover up the foil on the other side, because it's very, very pretty. We also have Snowflake, and then we have the Heartwarming Hugs. This is also a really good one too for just something very generic. It's Christmassy, but it's not overwhelming. And then you could add whatever you wanted. So this one would be really nice too if you were doing something quilt-wise. I swear, guys, if you could hear right now, little one is downstairs yelling because he can't get attention from someone, even though he doesn't really need it. And this is 100% true. So I'm going to go with this because it's really cute. Why is it children never need anything until you're on the phone? Can anybody answer that for me? Because you could be sitting all day and you could even be sitting there talking to yourself. But darn it, if you pick up the phone and have a conversation with another individual and they desperately need your attention. Is it not? Is it crazy? Is it me? I like this one, but I also like the stripes. I think I might go with this. Now, I know that this is also on vanilla as opposed to white. So I think I'm going to do the houndstooth. I really like the houndstooth. We had a paper some years ago that was houndstooth that was really, really pretty. We could do these two. We could do like the front and the side. I think I'm going to go with that. So this did measure, again, back to the project. Sorry about that stray there. Your husband is the same way. It's true. It's like, you know, you could be doing absolutely nothing, but darn it, as soon as you pick up whatever it is you're going to do, there they are. So she told me the measurements for this. So again, this should fit a Bath & Body. She said it measures 1.75 would be enough room by 3.25 tall and about 1 inch deep. So you could probably fit a lot of different hand sanitizers in this as well. And also, worst case scenario, you could always bring it in a little bit. So this one is going to be 1.75 across. And just to give it a little bit of a border, I'm going to go with 1.5. So 1.5 will be for the front and the back. This is 1 inch, so we'll do 3/4 of an inch for the side. You could also add something onto the top if you wanted to, just kind of up to your personal preference. The only thing you're going to want to make sure that you do for this is that if you have a directional paper, so this could kind of go either way, but if you want your stripes one way or the other, make sure you kind of stick with whatever you're doing. So we'll go with 1.5, so that's going to give us 3 inches for the front, and then we need 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch, that'll be 1.5 inches. So we'll go with 4.5, and it doesn't need to be this big, but 4.5 by, she said 3.25, so 3.25, we'll do by 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to cut these at 1.5 inches. So you'll need one for the front and one for the back. And then, so these should fit just nicely on there. It'll give you a little bit of a border for the front and for the back. And then these are going to be 3/4 of an inch. So we'll just pop this on the line. I probably could get out my other cutter, but that's okay. And we'll see. So if these look better with everything on the same, we'll stay with it the same. If not, we'll switch to the stripes, but we'll check that in a second. Other thing I'm going to do is, since I have this little extra piece, and this was the piece that I goofed, but we're going to make it work anyway. So I'm going to put these on before we actually put our box together. I'm going to go ahead and do something with my stocking. So I haven't used this one before. It's brand new. I got it actually just the other day. So we have this stocking. Be kind of cute, and it is real red and garden green. So what if we do real red and garden green, and then we'll trim them out. And I don't really know, we might just fussy cut them and put them on. We might actually not even need to add them with any dye, so we'll kind of see how that goes. So one tip I do have, if you've never used a photopolymer stamp before, so for example, this one is the very first time I've ever used it. Two things you can do. You can either kind of press them to your palm to kind of get some of the goop off. You can also use your chamois to clean off just a little bit of the residual stick from them being in the factory. kind of wipe them off. One other thing you can do, and I'm going to grab both of my stamp pads. So we said Real Red and Garden Green. You can also take Versamark, and this doesn't hurt your stamp, so you don't have to worry about that. And I'm going to use the stocking part we'll make in green. Oops, just missed my own directions. So you're going to actually ink it in the Versamark first, just lightly, and then ink it in the color you want and stamp it. I do have a mat under here, so you want to give it a moment to transfer. And then lift. And we'll do the same with this one, but we'll switch to the red. Sorry, my sleeves are getting away from me today. Same thing, so just inking this in Versamark, inking it in red. I'm going to stamp this over here. That way, in case we decide we want to add a sentiment, I'll put it on the vanilla there. So sometimes with these stamps, when they have a little bit more of a solid image, you could miss just a teeny bit. So right here, it's a little bit lighter, but I kind of picked it up fast. So if you notice that, just make sure you prep your stamps, especially if you have something that's a very solid image. Now, if you do have a problem after the fact, and no matter what you do, you either notice there's a mark on your stamp, you could have a defect. So make sure you contact the person that is your demonstrator. And if I'm your demonstrator, absolutely give me a call. We can call Stampin' Up. They do stand behind their products. So if you have any issues with performance, just let me know. And if you are a demonstrator, know that you can always call demo support. They are really helpful. I'm going to go ahead and just fussy cut this quickly. They are really helpful at getting things straightened out for you. I know I had a set actually that I had one time for quite a long time, and I just never called. And I decided one day, I said, you know, because I really love the stamp set, I'm going to just call. And they replaced it for me, and it wasn't retired, but it was definitely a little bit older, and they still replaced it for me. I was kind of surprised. I figured she would give me some tips and then send me on my way. But I definitely love the customer service that Stampin' Up! Gives, and I love the fact that if you have something that's a color, you don't have to worry about if the shade is going to be correct. It is the same matching shades. All of their colors coordinate really, really nicely. And I often forget to mention that when I do videos. It's really seamless. You know that Real Red, whatever it is that you're using will look the same. So a little bit of fussy cutting for that. We can pop one of these up one dimensionals just to give this a teeny bit of something extra. What we can do is I'm going to take a different color marker. So I'm just going to go with Old Olive, and I'm just going to outline this. Not really to make it look darker, but just to kind of give a little bit of depth to it. You could also sponge the edge if you want to. And then with this one, I'm going to go with Cherry Cobbler. So just a little bit darker. And I'm just kind of taking my marker and tracing around the edge. It helps to get rid of the harsh, usually it's a white line because I typically use Whisper White more, but gets rid of that white edging or lighter color edging. It just makes your project look a little bit more finished. Okay, so there is that. So we're all done with those. And I feel like I might want to add just a tiny sentiment. And I think I know I have my stitched shapes because they're one of my favorites, but I think I'm going to add this just for you. And what I'm going to do is take this one off. You could even do a Merry Hello. So, since I have my Cherry Cobbler out, we'll just do it with this. I'm just going to trace this over my words, my stamp, and this could be a doozy because you notice I just pulled this off and I haven't used this before and I didn't prep it on my hand. But I'm going to stamp this. Hopefully it's going to look okay. Not so bad. And then I'm just going to take these couple little sprigs and I'm just going to fill those in. Just a little bit. Now I am going to actually ink these in Garden Green, and I'll just do one above and one below. And I could stamp off, but I'm going to keep them so they're full strength. So just like that, and we'll let that be. So the only other thing I have to do is grab my smallest, hopefully it'll fit in this now that I'm looking at it, stitch circle. I lined it up pretty well considering. I think I'm kind of close to a score line, but that's okay. So I'm just going to tape this on here, and I'm just going to, without moving it, I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. And pull this. We have that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead, and this is still stuck together because there's a stamp here. We're going to put our pieces onto our box and finish that up. Now, you guys saw me outline those two stamps. You could also do the same thing with this circle if you wanted to. You just take your marker and ride around the edge. Another thing, because just thinking of quilting, and sometimes quilting can be a little bit more of a like a country feel to it. So another thing you could do, and I'll show you this before we put this together, we'll do this part, is you could even sponge the edges of your box. So I'm going to grab my garden green one final time, and so we're going to have these pieces here. So I'm just going to sponge the edges just a little bit. You could, if you wanted to add a little bit of additional something to this, you could add an embossing folder. So now that this is all cut and prepared exactly how you want it, you could emboss it, which is always fun. Now, I probably would emboss it if I wasn't going to add DSP to it, because if you emboss it and then add DSP, you're probably going to cover up some of it, so you might not really see as much of it that you think you would. So if you didn't have any DSP, or maybe you couldn't choose one that was going to go with your theme, that always adds a little something to it. And I'm just going over both sides only because I'm using a dauber. If I was sponging it, it probably would be fine. But sometimes the dauber kind of gives you more of a direct one-sided look. Just going to get a little bit on the top and bottom. And we'll see. And if you don't like this when it's finished, you could just skip this on your project. So what I'm going to have to do when we're done also, just for posterity, look at that. The lawnmower went off and there he went back to asking his question again. Is, oh, now I'm thinking of, I probably should have gone with a little bit more of an olivey, but that's okay. So what do you guys think? Should we do stripes and houndstooth? Because it's a lighter green, should we just stick with the stripes? Should we just stick with the houndstooth? Almost with the stripes because of the white. I don't really think it looks as good. I think it kind of might look better with the, ooh, this is kind of like, looks like when my grandfather used to pick out his clothes and he would dress himself in seersucker and stripes together. I probably should have thought this out a little bit better with my patterns. I have a little pattern clash going on. Open a brand new one of these. You like the stripes, Kathy? Well, since you know what, we made this for you, we'll do it. Only thing that throws me off sometimes is when you have vanilla and you have white, and it feels like they're very noticeable in their distinction between each other, but no biggie. We can switch. We're flexible here. If you haven't noticed that, for me and my goof ups, right? We are definitely flexible. Put this on, and I'm good, just kind of trying. That's why I like to put my DSP on before I put it together, because I'm trying to keep them so they're somewhat lined up very evenly across if I can. But sometimes that doesn't work, and that is also the reason why I like to use liquid glue versus the tape runners, because sometimes with those you can't really get them exactly where you want them. So we have that. That looks pretty good. We'll leave this. I'm going to actually put this on. I think I'm going to put this on with dimensional, and then we can always add this together with it. So we're going to see. I am going to do this with tear and tape. That way I ensure that it is actually going to stay together. So I just have a little piece of tear and tape here. Again, I probably should have done the edge of this a little bit. By the time whoever gets this, it will be dry. Okay. So we're going to have our tear and tape here. So that's where our one adhesive is going to go. And then this is going to be the front. So we're going to put some adhesive. We'll put a little piece here, here, and then I also want a piece, we'll put it on here to go to the bottom. Okay. So we'll put a little piece here, here, and I think this one I said was the front, yeah. And then we'll put some on this one. This is a pretty simple box. I mean, I've probably made boxes like this before. I'm sure it's not anything new, and I'm sure there's probably other people that have made a very similar box as well. This also, just looking at the shape of this box, because I have made this before, this also will fit a Young Living hand sanitizer, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I made one of these once before. It might have been a teeny bit thinner. And there goes the other one. Now the house phone rings. My video is complete. Let's make sure this goes together before we... Yep, still looks good. Take off my adhesive. If this doesn't make you guys laugh, honestly, I really don't know what else would. So I have those two pieces just kind of lightly pressed in. I don't usually like to push them firmly until I am 100% sure they are where I want them. Oops. Make sure everything's together. Okay. You could even put a little piece of DSP on the top there too if you wanted to. So now I'm just going to take my bone folder and kind of poke it into there. Okay. And then this will fold over. And now I think this is still going to look cute together. Even though it's a little bit of crazy town, we're still going to put that just like that. So I think I'm going to put my stocking on directly, and then this I'm going to put on with dimensionals. So let me grab one of my bigger dimensionals. I put all of my little dimensionals away, so I would really have to go dig for them. And I ordered several packages of the new dimensionals, or the white ones I should say, because I was running out. I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue on the back of both of these pieces. Put this guy on here first. I don't know who he is on the phone with down there, but Lord help him. Like that. Probably my in-laws is what I'm guessing. There you go. Adorable, right? Super, super, super cute. And I moved my trash can to the other side. I got so used to it being on the one side, and I vacuumed last night and moved it. But that's a pretty easy treat box. I think I probably would add just a little something to the top here because I feel like it's a little left out. The bottom doesn't really matter, but really easy. If I had a hand sanitizer of that brand, I would show you. And all of mine are in my purse because, you know, these days we are hand sanitizing everything to pieces. So there's that one. So just to stick with it, to kind of make it a little bit simpler, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very similar card for the gift card holder portion. I'm just going to stick with the thick, very vanilla, and then we'll add some different DSP to this. So for this, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to score this in half. So let me grab my Simply Scored. Apologies, one more time. We're going to score this in half at 5 1/2, and then we're going to score it at 2 3/4. Now I say kind of, no, not 2 3/4, 5 1/2. Yeah, 2 3/4. I say this kind of slightly because you usually have to trim just a teeny bit from this. So I'm going to do 2 3/4, and then we already have our 5 1/2. But the way we do this with it folding in, sometimes you have to shave off just a hair. So I'm going to shave off a hair. And I'm talking just a hair. Probably like a 1/16 of an inch. Just going to move it right. So 5.5 is the score line. I'm moving it to 5 and 1 2/3. So that will be that. While we have this out, because you want to be able to fold this in, you can also cut this out, but sometimes just the overlaying piece doesn't lay quite as well. We're going to keep this with the same theme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use pieces of this for the front, unless somebody would like different, because this paper is really pretty. We could definitely use, we could use the dots. We could use the stripes. We do have a little bit more white. I don't really know if we should go with the dots. We do the gingham. Let's do the gingham. That's really cute too. So we'll go with that. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this as I would. So we would say, normally we would do 4 1/4. So we're going to make it 4 because we're going to give a little bit of a 1/4 inch rim. And then if we were doing the pieces at 2 3/4, I'll say we'll do them at 2 1/2. So we have 2 1/2, which will be for our front piece here. This piece could even be just a teeny bit smaller. So we'll maybe do this one at 2 and 2 3/8. So that will be that. And we're going to stamp something onto a vanilla piece and add it onto the front. So again, this is a pretty simple card overall. And one other thing I did not bring with me is a punch. So I'm going to improvise. This doesn't have to be a punch, but what we'll do instead is we're going to cut this through. And since I am doing this with a die cut, that's why I feel pretty comfortable doing this. So I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. So if for some reason maybe you don't have punches, or you don't have punches yet, or you don't have a punch you want to use, I'm going to just tape this in place just so I know where it is. And then I'm going to tape my stitched circle in, and I'm going to run this through, and it's going to create a little notch for you to put your gift card, okay? So I'm going to just show you. I'm not going to bring the die cut machine over here, but what we're going to do is we're going to just line all this up on the machine like that and run it through, and it's going to cut through both of those pieces. Technically, you're not supposed to punch through more than one piece. If you did one piece in DSP, it would be okay, but you're not supposed to punch through more than one piece of cardstock. However, when you're doing die cutting, it's not really quite the same. So then we have our little, granted it does remove the stitched piece, which is no big deal because we really wanted the flap anyway. And if you wanted it to be a little bit more spaced, I'll show you what you could do, which is why I did cut this down just a little bit thinner. Just be careful with your tape so you don't rip your DSP. So you could always move this back a little bit if you wanted a little halo, but I'm going to leave it just like that. And then this will just go in the recycle bin. You probably could do something with it, but I saved too many pieces as it is. So we're going to go ahead and fold on our score lines, and just like that. Okay, now one other thing you want to do is you want to put some adhesive down. So we're going to do that again with the tear and tape. I'm only going to put it on the sides because we don't want our front to stick, and we don't really, it doesn't really need to be adhered here. So I'm going to put just a little bit right here, kind of go up just about 1/4 inch, and same over here. Just give those a nice press. I'm going to push these down. I'm not going to push too hard, but I do have, where is my mountain? Oh, someone moved them, of gift cards. So you can fit your gift card in there. And I usually like to put my gift card in just to make sure I don't push it too far and for some reason it doesn't stick or it sticks too much. So there is our gift card in there. We're going to just take our liquid glue. And again, especially because we have this little die cut circle, the liquid glue helps us to be able to line it up perfectly. Oopsie. Pull this out. Okay, there's one. And it does get a little bit fat, so I do find that I end up reinforcing that as well. Could have even done this side, is really cute too. Now, one other thing you could do, and this just depends on if you feel like you like to get rid of a lot of your DSP because maybe you don't necessarily use it like you thought you did, or if you're trying to save it because you're going to make so many of these cards with the same pattern because it comes in 12 by 12. Another thing you could do is you could cut a piece of your DSP, put it in the background here, and then you could cut another vanilla layer and put it on top, but I'm going to skip that. But in case you're trying to get through some of yours, that's another really fun idea. So then for this one, we can decorate the inside of this a little bit. How about if we run the stockings in there, and then we'll add a little bit of some sort of a sentiment to the front we'll add with a die cut. I really like the one about the magic of the season. May your season be filled with magic. Let's do that. So I'm going to pull these off. There's also Heartfelt Christmas. It does have a lot of really nice sentiments in this grouping. Take off our stocking. This piece is on the front. Other thing that's really neat too is if you're totally not into coloring, now if you notice this or not, you can fill your dots in. So you can stamp this in one color and then fill your dots, fill the inside of your sock, and then fill the plaid. So let's try that. Now, normally I would have probably paid attention and done this in steps without actually putting this front part together first, but little man downstairs has thrown me for a loop. I'm going to go with Mossy Meadow. So I'm going to stamp because, and the reason I would say I would do this ahead of time is in case I goofed it up, but we're not going to make any mistakes, right? We're going to keep this perfect. Nice thing about photopolymer is you can see exactly where you are when you line it up. Almost. Actually, that one lined up pretty well. This one has a teeny bit that's just a little bit missing. So I'm going to grab my Mossy Meadow Stampin' Right marker. We'll just kind of create. There you go. See? Now you can't even tell that that wasn't like that. So we did our little socks. Now we'll pull in these little pieces. And the neat part is they line up. So you don't only have to worry about lining 3 of them up at once. You can line them all up together. So let's do this in, I'm going to do Mary Merlot. I find that I don't use this color as much as I thought I would. So let's just try it. All right, so I'm going to start with my outside most one first. You could also do this with markers if you're like, oh, Rachel, I am not going to do well on this. And you never know, I might not. Actually, that turned out good. I'm not going to re-ink it for the second one. And then I'm going to re-ink it for the third one. Kind of create that little pattern. So there you go. Perfect. Really easy. All right, so we have that. Only other thing I need is a little piece of vanilla for my sentiment. We could stamp something on the inside too. It's the best time of year. A merry hello. So I'm going to actually do this one. I'm going to do the May Your Season Be Filled with Magic on the inside, and I'm going to swap to the A Merry Hello for the front. And I have a little scrap. I'm going to cut that out with a circle, and I shouldn't have put my, apologies, I think I can reach past there without me constantly sticking my arm in. We'll do A Merry Hello, and then we'll do this one for the inside. May your season be filled with magic. So the Mary Merlot, and then we use kind of a combo between, I did for the first thing, Garden Green, but Mossy Meadow and Vanilla look pretty nice together. So there's that piece. So I'm going to set this over here so I don't goof that up. Then I'm going to grab, where is my other one? Here it is. A Merry Hello. This should, whoops, missed a piece on that one. Hold on. So this is where you have to see if something looks funky, because it's not doing my M. Could be operator error. So I'm going to flip it over, try one more time. Yep, it was. And now the loop is fine there. So I'm going to cut this out with the stitched circle. And then I might go to the next size up stitch circle. Let's see what this will fit in. It's tight, but I'm going to go with that. And then I think I'm going to grab a piece of Mossy Meadow cardstock and cut out the next largest one and layer it behind on the front. Maybe I should. You know what? I'm not going to do the Mossy. To bring out the color, I'm going to do the Mary Merlot. And I have a little scrap. That way it'll kind of tie that together. So I'm going to put this, I'm going to run both of these through the die cutting machine at the same time. I am going to tape this one only because I want to try to make sure I kind of keep that in frame. This one I don't really need to tape, but I'll just pop it on there anyway. Run both of these through the die cut machine. And again, you could add lots of other stuff to this, but if you want to make it simple, it's a pretty easy gift card holder. This is probably one of the simpler gift card holders that you can create, only because you're really just using your regular base. You can also do, I did a really fun one some time ago with just a simple fold and a belly band, which that's another one that's really cute as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on with liquid glue, and then we'll pop this up onto the front. You have lots of other little embellishments you could add to this if you want. Want to add a little bit of something exciting. We have lots of ribbons you could add. So we'll put our little gift card holder, again, will go right in here. You could Wink of Stella up your little stockings. I'll put this here. Mary Hello. Since this one is, the paper is dark behind it, I'm okay with using the darker dimensionals. There you go, just like that. And this will stand on its own, so you also don't have to worry about whether it will or won't stand, because sometimes some gift card holders aren't going to stand. So let me move all these things out of your way. I'm just going to close this so you can see this stamp set that we used, again, in case you might have come in late. And then we also made this cute little box. This will hold hand sanitizer. If I get a couple of these things out of your way, in case you want to take a quick snapshot. So I thank you guys so very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. I do apologize in the beginning. We had a little bit of craziness, but at least we wrapped it all back around in the end. If you are watching this after the fact on YouTube, I will post the measurements, and I typically put a link to the project in the top of the YouTube feed, so it'll list all the products that we used, then all of my information. But at the top, I usually put the host code and the blog post, so you can click on it if you do need measurements. This, again, is a host set in case for some reason you missed it. We also used the Heartwarming Hugs DSP, so this goes with a completely different stamp set, but I think it kind of gives that nice quilty look, which is what Kathy was looking for, something to be able to give to her quilting retreat people, which I'm sure they are really going to enjoy. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. I'm not sure what my schedule is looking like yet because as of right now, the kids come in on Tuesday. So I did go live, I believe it was last Tuesday evening. It was very unscripted. So probably my lives during the week, if I'm able to fit one in, is going to just be here and there. But I am going to try to pick a set time on Saturday. So as soon as I can get something figured out that works all of the time, I will absolutely let you guys know. Otherwise, until then, if you stay tuned into my Facebook page, I usually update that quickest with when I know I'm going to go live. And if you turn on notifications for Facebook, Also with YouTube, YouTube gives you much better actual real-time notifications if I do go live or when I post a new video, but Facebook will do the same. So if you're subscribed to either of my channels, make sure you turn on notifications specifically for YouTube. If you click the bell, it actually will send you a message when I'm live or when I post a new video. But I want to thank you guys so very much for joining me again today. If you have anything you'd like to get related to these crafts that we made today, I would love for you to shop in my online store, rachthestamper.stampinup.net. I do have some great giveaways for the month of September for purchases, and I will be sending out my August thank you notes and thank you emails, which will contain the tutorial coming up really soon. So stay tuned for that. And if for any reason, if you ever get an email tutorial from me that doesn't open or doesn't work, please let me know. I really am aiming for not perfection, but as perfect as can be. So if something doesn't work, send me an email and let me know. Shoot me a message here or on YouTube, and I will get right on it. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your holiday weekend. Enjoy the day off if you have it Monday, and have a great day.